Remember when you'd flip through that yellow consumers distributing catalog at the kitchen table? Or the distinctive beep of A&P cash registers that meant your mom was finally done shopping and you could go home for Saturday morning cartoons? These vanished Canadian supermarkets weren't just places to buy groceries. They were the backdrops to our childhood memories and family routines. But what does their disappearance reveal about how profoundly our communities and daily lives have changed forever? Coming in at number 8 on our countdown of vanished Canadian supermarkets, we have consumers distributing. Though calling it a supermarket might be stretching it, this catalog counter hybrid was where countless Canadian families shopped for everything from toasters to toys, creating a distinctly pre-internet shopping experience unlike anything we have today. Remember bringing home that thick yellow catalog with its matte pages and thousands of items? The whole family gathering around the kitchen table to circle Christmas presents or back-to-school supplies? The distinctive brown and beige storefronts anchored suburban strip malls from Vancouver to Halifax, their utilitarian design a sharp contrast to today's carefully branded retail experiences. What made consumers truly Canadian wasn't just its ubiquity, but the shared national experience of filling out those little paper slips, handing them to the clerk at the counter, and then holding your breath while they disappeared into the mysterious warehouse behind. The anticipation while waiting to hear if your item was in stock created a unique emotional roller coaster. The deflation when you heard, "I'm sorry, that's not available," was a formative disappointment for Generation X Canadians. Yet when the conveyor belt whirred and your purchase emerged from the back room, the satisfaction was incomparable. This analog shopping experience, halfway between mail order and modern retail, created a uniquely Canadian patience in the face of limited selection, a trait that distinguished us from our American neighbors with their massive department stores and shopping malls. In at number 7, we find Nob Hill Farms, the self-proclaimed food terminals that transformed Ontario grocery shopping from the 1960s through the 1990s. If you're old enough to remember pushing those massive metal carts across concrete floors under soaring industrial ceilings, you experienced a completely different grocery culture than today's carefully curated supermarket experiences. Founded by Steve Stavro, a Macedonian immigrant who later owned the Toronto Maple Leafs, Nob Hill epitomized a distinctly Canadian approach to food shopping. Practical, unpretentious, and slightly overwhelming in scale. The converted warehouses with their distinctive railroad car entrances became landmarks in Toronto area communities, the massive parking lots filling with station wagons on Saturday mornings. Inside, the sensory experience was unforgettable. The slight chill in the air, the echo of announcements over the PA system, the distinctive smell of cardboard produce boxes and forklifts. Nob Hill pioneered bulk shopping before warehouse clubs existed, selling everything from industrial-sized ketchup bottles to entire cases of canned goods. If you're finding yourself nodding along, remembering the slight ache in your arms from pushing those unwieldy carts, or the satisfaction of your mom's triumphant declaration of how much she'd saved, hit subscribe for more deep dives into the Canada we've lost. A country where shopping was as much about the experience and the people as it was about the products. Moving to number 6 on our list, we find IGA, the Independent Grocers Alliance, which might still exist in some areas but has vanished from much of the Canadian landscape it once dominated. Founded in 1953 as a cooperative for independent store owners, IGA created a uniquely Canadian compromise. Small-town personal service with big chain buying power. The red logo with its distinctive shield became a symbol of community in small towns across the country, where the owner often knew your name and your usual order. Walking into an IGA in the 1970s or 80s meant experiencing a sensory landscape now largely lost. The butcher counter with its light dusting of sawdust on the floor, the bakery with its paper bags of dinner rolls twisted shut with red plastic ties, the produce section where seasonal availability actually meant something. These weren't just shopping experiences, but cultural touchstones that structured Canadian family life. Friday night grocery shopping, followed by takeout pizza, the summer displays of local produce that marked the passage of seasons, the IGA flyer that arrived in Wednesday newspapers determining what would be on dinner tables across the province, the distinctive jingle, "We take time to serve you better at your IGA store," played on small-town radio stations between local news and weather reports, embedding itself in rural Canadian consciousness. IGA stores were where generations of Canadian teenagers got their first jobs, wearing the red aprons while stocking cans or bagging groceries, learning the rhythms of their communities through the weekly shopping habits of every family in town. Sliding into fifth place, A&P Canada represents a vanished institution that operated from 1927 until 2005, when it was acquired by Metro. The Canadian branch of the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company brought American-style self-service shopping to Canada, forever changing how people interacted with food. The iconic red facade with its white lettering became architectural shorthand for reliability, while inside, the Jane Parker Bakery brand produced the cakes and pies that Canadian grandmothers would surreptitiously transfer to their own plates before guests arrived. The sensory landscape of A&P defined grocery shopping for generations. The distinctive click of the price stampers marking each can, the smell of cardboard produce boxes mixed with floor wax and coffee from the 8 o'clock bean grinders, the squeak of rubber-wheeled shopping carts with their child seats made of cold, cracked plastic. The teenage bag boys in their red vests represented a first brush with independence for suburban youth, their first paychecks often funding Atari games or hockey equipment. A&P wasn't just where Canadians bought food. It was where they absorbed cultural changes through innovations like fluorescent lighting, pneumatic tube systems that whisked cash to central offices, and the transition from daily shopping to weekly stock-ups. The company's absorption into Metro symbolized the gradual erasure of distinctive Canadian retail in favor of conglomeration, trading familiar cultural touchstones for efficiency and scale in a pattern that would repeat across our countdown. Securing the fourth position in our countdown, Loeb exemplifies the regional grocery chains that once gave distinct character to Canadian communities before corporate consolidation reshaped our retail landscape. Born in the Ottawa Valley when Moses Loeb established his first store in 1912, the chain expanded throughout eastern Ontario, its distinctive red and white checkered logo becoming as familiar to locals as their own kitchen tables. Loeb stores weren't just places to buy food. They were community institutions where cashiers recognized customers, where the deli counter staff remembered your usual order, and where generations of families navigated the familiar aisles in a weekly ritual. The sensory memories remain vivid for those who grew up with Loeb. The slightly sweet smell of their bakery section, where birthday cakes emerged from behind swinging doors with that distinctive checkered logo, piped in icing, the squeak of winter boots on the white linoleum during January thaws, the mechanical chunk of their older cash registers that predated digital scanning. Friday nights at Loeb became a family tradition, parents shopping after payday, while kids congregated in the magazine section flipping through comics they couldn't afford to buy. The community connection extended beyond commerce. Loeb sponsored local hockey teams, their name emblazoned across the backs of countless children who grew up to become loyal customers themselves. The chain's absorption by Metro in 1999 reflected the relentless consolidation of Canadian grocery retail, as regional character gave way to national efficiency. What disappeared wasn't just a store, but a way of shopping that prioritized community knowledge and personal connection. A casualty of an era that increasingly valued price and convenience over familiarity and relationship. Our third-place entry, Miracle Food Mart, revolutionized Ontario grocery shopping during the 1970s and 80s by introducing the then radical concept of everyday low prices. As a subsidiary of Quebec's Steinberg's, Miracle pioneered discount supermarketing that forever changed Canadian expectations about food costs. Walking into a Miracle Food Mart meant entering a landscape of practical abundance. Massive stores with high ceilings, wide aisles, and those distinctive yellow price tags that signaled savings to budget-conscious shoppers during difficult economic times. For many Ontario families, Miracle represented the democratization of food shopping, where working-class households could afford the same quality and variety previously available only to the more affluent. Parents stretched grocery budgets during the economic uncertainties of the 1970s oil crisis and early 80s recession, teaching children to compare unit prices and lessons about financial literacy that would serve many through adulthood. The stores themselves felt enormous to child shoppers, indoor landscapes with their own geography and climate, where the frozen food section offered a momentary Arctic escape during summer shopping trips. Miracle's eventual acquisition by A&P and a transformation into Ultra Food and Drug followed the pattern of consolidation that claimed so many regional chains. Its distinctive character gradually homogenized until the name itself vanished. The loss coincided with Canada's recession of the early 1990s, symbolizing broader economic anxieties as middle-class security seemed increasingly precarious. What disappeared wasn't just a store, but a particular Canadian approach to value, unpretentious, straightforward, and accessible, replaced by an increasingly segmented market where discount shopping lost its mainstream appeal and became instead a marker of economic necessity. Building anticipation for our second-place entry, we arrive at Steinberg's, a Quebec retail legend that transcended mere grocery shopping to become a cultural institution and economic force. Founded in 1917 by Hungarian immigrant Sam Steinberg, who began with a tiny Montreal storefront and a handcart for deliveries, the chain grew to define Quebec's retail landscape during the province's transformative Quiet Revolution. Steinberg's wasn't just where Quebecers bought groceries. It was where the province's evolving identity expressed itself through consumer culture, where traditional Quebec foodways met modern supermarket efficiency, creating a distinctly Quebecois approach to food retailing. The sensory landscape of Steinberg's encoded memories for generations. The distinctive smell of St. Hubert barbecue counters that operated in many locations. The sound of conversation shifting seamlessly between French and English at the checkout lines. The visual impact of the modernist S logo that appeared on everything from bread bags to delivery trucks. For Jewish Montrealers, Steinberg's extensive kosher sections represented inclusion in the mainstream, while for many non-Jewish Quebecers, these same sections provided first introductions to foods from outside their cultural experience. Multi-generational family shopping trips created shared memories across language divides, as grandmothers examined produce with knowing hands, while grandchildren lobbied for treats near the checkout. The chain's dramatic 1992 collapse following years of family infighting and corporate raids sent shockwaves through Quebec society, representing both the end of a retail era and symbolizing the province's shifting economic landscape. The loss felt personal to many Quebecers who had defined their shopping habits, family budgets, and even career path through their relationship with this quintessentially Quebec institution. And finally, claiming the top spot in our countdown of vanished Canadian supermarkets, we have Dominion Stores, the chain founded in 1919 that grew to become Canada's largest grocery retailer, with its famous promise that mainly, it's because of the meat. No single retailer defined Canadian grocery shopping more completely or for longer than a Dominion, whose distinctive shield logo represented quality and trustworthiness from coast to coast. Dominion wasn't just a supermarket chain, but a truly national institution that structured weekly routines for millions of Canadians through most of the 20th century. The sensory experience of Dominion stores imprinted itself on collective memory, The distinctive orange and brown interior color scheme that defined 1970s shopping aesthetics, the produce section with its misters that children surreptitiously triggered while parents selected vegetables, the unique smell of Dominion paper bags that differed subtly from their competitors, and the futuristic font of the Club 2000 frozen food section that promised modern convenience to busy families. Dominion connected Canadians to pivotal moments in consumer history. The introduction of store brands that challenged the primacy of national products. The transition from service to self-service that changed how we interact with food. And the cultural touchstone of their meat counter commercials that every Canadian could sing along with. When Dominion was absorbed into Metro in Ontario and is sold to Loblaw in Atlantic Canada, something uniquely Canadian disappeared from our retail landscape. Looking back at all 8 of these vanished supermarkets, from consumers distributing to Dominion, reveals a broader story about changing Canadian identity, from regional diversity to corporate homogenization, from distinctive Canadian retail to international conglomeration. Yet, while the physical stores have vanished, replaced by big box retailers and online shopping, the shared memories of these uniquely Canadian shopping experiences continue to connect us across generations and provinces like secret passwords that unlock recognition among those who pushed those carts, heard those jingles, and carried home those distinctive bags that marked us as part of a shared national experience, now fading into history.